A carol for Christmas. We are very grateful to Kelly, Catherine, and Katerina for asking for today's story. Jacob Marley had passed away. There is absolutely no question about it. Marley was the sole musical partner and co-owner of Scrooge and Marley's counting house. The company was still called Scrooge and Marley, and the sign remained in place. However, Marley was completely dead. The remaining partner, Ebenezer Scrooge, was as lonely as an oyster and as cruel and sharp as flint. His ancient features were frozen as the cold inside him constricted his nose, shriveled his cheek, tightened his gait, and cunningly called out in his grating music voice, "My dear Scrooge, how are you?" was never said to him when he was stopped on the street. There were no beggars' music pleading with him for a small gift. He was never questioned by kids what time it was, or by men or women how. That was how he liked it. Scrooge sat at his desk at the counting house on a chilly, overcast Christmas Eve. Bob Cratchit, his clerk, was trying to remain warm in the little fire in a gloomy music cell. Suddenly, Fred, Scrooge's nephew, entered. Greater than... "Uncle, have a great Christmas. God bless you and keep you safe." "Uncle, are you coming to supper with us tonight? Do it for the joy and kindness of Christmas. At the very least. Christmas is only a chance to fulfill financial responsibilities and acknowledge that you are a year older rather than an hour wealthier. Every fool who says Merry Christmas should be buried with a stake of holly through his heart and cooked with his own pudding, if I had my desire. I want music to quit squandering my time on these pointless Christmas-related events." After realizing he had lost, Fred wished Bob Cratchit a happy Christmas and turned to go. Then 2 burly men came in and asked for gifts for the underprivileged. Scrooge inquired as to if the music-poor legislation and the treadmill were still in operation. Scrooge encouraged people to die when they indicated a want to do so in order to reduce the excess population. In despair, the man departed music. Until it came time to shut, Scrooge worked. "I guess you'll want all day tomorrow." Greater than. "If it's convenient, sir, I guess you have to have it, even if it's unfair and inconvenient. Arrive early the next morning." Greater than I'll be there." Greater than. Scrooge returned to his dark old room. Music, Jacob Marley's visage, appeared in lieu of the door knocker as he inserted his key into the lock. Like a terrible lobster in music in a pitch-black dungeon, it emitted a gloomy glow. The knocker was a knocker once again. Once Scrooge blinked. A ringing music sound from the deep dungeon below shocked him as he sat down to his GRL within, a rather unsettling, clanking sound. Then music appeared in front of him like a ghost. It was Jacob Marley, but he was pulling a huge, bulky chain that included currency boxers, ledgers, deeds, keys, and huge, steel-wrought purses music. Marley had a terrible appearance. "In life, who are you?" "Jacob Marley. I was your friend. Over the course of my life, I have constructed this chain. Your own chain gets heavier, yard by yard, link by link. After my passing, you have 7 more music years to make it. Out of avarice and worldly concern, I created my song link by link. I am meant to tour the music world and see people in situations where I am unable to assist them. Scrooge, I'm only here to warn you. 3 music ghosts will be after you. The first will occur at 1, the second at the same hour the next music night, and the third the night after the last music stroke of 12. Wearing the same clanking music chain, Marley ventured forth into a realm of restless, melancholic ghosts. With a deep, doubtful red face, Scrooge stumbled back to his bed, suited the door, and fell asleep. At exactly 12, Scrooge woke up. The draperies on his bed rustled as he waited tensely for the clock to strike 1. "Are you the spirit whose arrival was predicted for me, sir?" "I am the essence of a previous Christmas." Scrooge was told by the ghost to get up and follow it. They pushed through the gates and came out onto a rural road where Scrooge had grown up as soon as it struck Scrooge's heart. The spirit showed him his former boarding school, which was depressing and abandoned save for a lone boy reading by music a weak fire. Just Ebenezer Scrooge, the scene shifted. Scrooge noticed Fan, his younger sister. "My dear brother, I've been missing you so much that I've come music to fetch you home. Father has become much more kind, and we will spend the entire Christmas season together." Fan passed away at a young age and was the mother of his nephew Fred. The ghost put him to work as an apprentice in a busy warehouse once more. Fezziwig, his supervisor, declared, "Yo-ho, my boys, no more work tonight. Christmas Eve. After closing the store for music that evening, Fezziwig oversaw a lavish Christmas party. A violin began to play. Cakes and tea were distributed. Joyful dancing and music flooded the warehouse. Scrooge observed his earlier self having fun during the celebrations. You commend him as though he were a humanitarian, even though he has only spent a few pounds of your mortal dollars. He offers pleasure that is just as wonderful as if it were costly. When Scroo heard the word, he thought of Bob Cratchit and hung his head. The images are getting increasingly unpleasant. Scrooge imagined himself as a young, aspirational guy sitting next to Belle, a stunning young woman. You don't truly care about it. Very little. I've been replaced by another idol, a golden one. Greater than. Please realize that all I do is for our future, Belle. I have witnessed the failure of your loftier goals and the strengthening of your avarice. I apologize, Scrooge, but I am unable to continue. She called off their engagement. When the elderly Scrooge realized his worst regret, he moaned. Years later, the ghost finally showed him a scene from his house. Now that she was a mother, Belle was surrounded by contented kids and a loving husband. Scrooge was at his breaking point. The ghost did not move. After fighting the ghost, Scrooge suddenly became desperate and extinguished music, the light coming from its head with its own hat. He returned to his own bed, exhausted, and dozed off. When the clock struck 1, Scrooge woke up. Now that he was ready, he waited for the next spirit with music. A bright flash of light came from the adjacent room as a powerful voice yelled his name. When Scrooge arrived, he saw something truly remarkable. For Christmas, the region was turned into a gastronomic haven. It was amazing to see the enormous ghost perched on this mound of food. It was clad in a plain green robe with a border of white fur and clutched music, a brilliant torch fashioned like a horn of abundance. There were around 1,800 brothers in the spirit, one for each year since Christ's birth. Scrooge followed the ghost into the streets, where people were contentedly carrying their meals and scraping the snow. All resentments swiftly disappeared as the ghost showered them with incense music from its flame. They took a plane to Bob Music Cratchit's impoverished home. They discovered the music humble Christmas feast being prepared by Mrs. Cratchit and her kids, claiming to have scented music the goose. The two young Cratchits rushed in. Then Bob Cratchit himself arrived with Tiny Tim, his youngest son. Tiny Tim had iron frames on his limbs and a small crutch. The family praised the small goose as they sat down and listened to music. Bob proposed raising a toast. Scrooge was deeply touched by music. Greater than, tell me if Tiny Tim will live. Scrooge's comments were quoted by the ghost. He should lessen the excess population if his death is inevitable. With regret, Scrooge hung his head. Scrooge traveled the world with the spirit. Whether they were lighthouse keepers on a cliff, sailors at sea, or miners huddled around a fire, everyone celebrated Christmas with joy. At last, they arrived at the house of Fred, Scrooge's music nephew. Fred and his pals were giggling uncontrollably. They were talking about Scrooge, whom Fred claimed was more worthy of sympathy than rage. For his uncle, Fred suggested making a toast. He joyfully drank to him. Scrooge was so moved that he was ready to participate in the toast when the ghost dragged him away. It was becoming late. Abruptly, the ghost of the Christmas gift became old. A boy and a girl, both poor and miserable, came out from under its road. The child has no knowledge. The girl is lovely. Watch out for both of them. Above all, though, watch out for music, this lad, because I see a writing on his brow that pretends catastrophe until music erases it. The spirit music disappeared around 12 o'clock, wearing a music deep black robe. A frightening, menacing ghost materialized. The spirit approached Scrooge in silence, slowly and solemnly. Scrooge shivered because he sensed the spirit's might, even though all he could see were the dark clothes folds in a phantom hand. Music, will you be the ghost of Christmas yet? Tell me whether I can still alter the shadows you showed me, please. Greater than. The ghost did not move or speak. The ghost moved its hand forward. They were in the city close to the exchange, where a few merchants were talking about the passing of a rich guy who was so hated that no one would go to his burial. Scrooge was curious about the identity of the deceased man, but the ghost gave him no clues. Then they ended themselves at a famous music rag and bone shop in a drab area of London. A blanket, a shirt, and even the curtains around the dead man's bed were among the things that 3 individuals had gathered to sell. This complete lack of compassion for the dead music appalled Scrooge. Scrooge was guided to music, a bedroom in the deceased man's home, by the spirit in silence. The room was dark, and a sheet-covered, lonely, neglected body lay on the wretched, uncurtained bed. Scrooge was afraid to look at the face in the corner of the sheet. Greater than, I see. Ghost. I see. I could be in this miserable man's shoes. That's how my life usually is right now. After leaving the chamber of death, they were taken to a small, impoverished home where the Dilber family, a couple, was celebrating with tears of relief. They were temporarily saved from financial catastrophe by his death, which allowed them a day's grace to pay a strict creditor the money they owed. The impact music of the deceased man's life on others was evident, even if his name was never spoken. At last, the spirit led him to the residence of music Bob Cratchit. The family was grieving in silence. Bob arrived late and took a leisurely stroll while listening to music. He claimed to have recently visited Tiny Music Tim's tomb. Bob attempted to console Mrs. Cratchit as she sobbed quietly, recalling Tim's tolerance and generosity. Scrooge lost his mind. On a gravestone, he recognized his own name. Scrooge, Ebenezer, in front of the music phantom. Spectre. Scrooge dropped to his knees. I sense that it will soon be time for us to part ways. I'm the dude on the bed. If I've given up, why show me this? I'll make an effort to remember Christmas throughout the entire year. I shall be a part of the past, present, and music future. The spirits will work very hard inside of me. I will not ignore the music teachings they teach. The phantom's hood and clothes music shrank, crumbled, and withered down into a bedpost as he stretched out to grasp its hand. Gasps and sighs. Scrooge woke up on his own bed, clinging to his own bedpost. Greater. They are still there. Laughing, the spirits finished all of their assignments in a single night. Laughing, I have no idea what day of the month it is. I have no idea how long I've been a part of the music vibe. I have no knowledge. I am actually a baby. Greater than, laughing greater than, he cried and laughed as he danced around the room. He peered out the window. A kid wearing Sunday attire was walking past. How are you today, kind fellow? Greater than, right now. Is it Christmas Day? Why, he hired the lad to go to the chicken shop, buy the biggest turkey music had won an award, and have it brought right to Bob Cratchit's house. The thought of finding out who sent it made Bob giggle. Greater than. Scrooge put on an impressive outfit. As he was exiting his room, he ran across one of the fat guys who had asked for donations the day before. I can guarantee you, my dear gentleman, that it includes a substantial sum of past due payments. Could you kindly help me with that? The man was shocked by the enormous number when he murmured the music amount. He stepped out onto the street. He was enthralled by the air itself, the joyful ringing of the bells, the happy faces of people rushing forward. Scrooge smiled as he crossed the street after spotting Fred and music in the distance. Freddie said that he was still invited to music Christmas dinner when he asked. Scrooge had an amazing and happy day with his niece, nephew, music, and their visitors. Scrooge arrived at work before Bob Cratchit the following morning. While he waited, he eagerly anticipated seeing him music come late. Hi there. By arriving here at this time of day, what do you mean? I apologize profusely, sir. I'm running late. Laughing now. My friend, let me tell you something. I will no longer put up with this kind of music. I shall thus increase your pay. Bob, have a fantastic Christmas. I've delivered you a brighter Christmas. Bob, after a challenging year. We'll talk about your issues this afternoon over a bowl of coffee, and I'll try my best to help your family. Bishop greater than Bob had gone insane and thought his music teacher was a monster. Scrooge kept his promise. He fulfilled all of his commitments, and more. He is the best friend, teacher, and guide the music great old city has ever known. He also became Tiny Tim's surrogate father and increased Bob's pay. Scrooge allowed some people to laugh at his metamorphosis because he realized that nothing music ever occurred on this planet forever. Scrooge always understood Tiny Tim's favorite phrase, God bless us everyone, as he grew stronger.